Batten down the hatches, we have set off on our voyage of the In Your House World Tour. We are back, Union Smack, right here. That's right, knocking them all out. Every In Your House pay-per-view of all time. We're starting it right here. But I cannot do this alone. I need to go on this expedition with my Christopher Columbus, my navigator, the man steering my ship. Because quite frankly, I go off the rails all the fucking time. Maniac Matt Tennant, what's going on, my man? Welcome back. How have you been? Where can everyone catch you?
I have been busy, I've been in pain, but, you know, it is what it is. And you can catch me on Twitter, @ThePerfectTendant. You can log on to unionsmack.bigcartel.com, pick up an official shirt from all of Travis's shows, and I am, at last, thrilled to be able to say that the Undertaker book, A Trip Down Death Valley, you can now purchase it from lulu.com, and the NXT UK Year 1 book is finished. I am putting it together tomorrow, and it should be with you, fingers crossed, by mid-September.
Look at you, and it's not like, hey, I have a big announcement for that. You're like a machine gun of good news. Like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Look at that. Look at that. Congrats, man. That's awesome. It's awesome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I can't wait to finally check out the NXT UK book, because I feel like we've been talking about it for an eternity, and people don't realize any kind of book or novel, there's so much work, and not just from one person. You know, you have your artists, you have your publishers, editors, all that shit. You know, but cannot wait. Good.
Yeah, I've been writing it since October 2018, since NXT UK started. So it's been a long journey, Travis, but I'm finally there, and as much as I've enjoyed it, and as good as it's going to look, I can't say I'm sorry that it's finished. Like,
this is put into retrospect how long he's been working on this book, guys. That was right around the time in WWE where they were doing the Shield reunion, and then Kurt Angle was in the Shield for like a guest spot.
God.
That's how long ago that was.
God, I'm tired. I think once it's on the shelves, I'm going to bed for about 3 months. That's it.
Considering the match card we have to talk about this week, the amount of sleep I'm on, what time it is over there, things might go completely everywhere on this show this week. So look forward to that. Until we get there, though, follow me on Twitter @TheHibikiTMD. Hit that red subscribe button down below. Here on YouTube, subscribe for all that goddamn goodness. Unionsmack.bigcartel.com, like Matt said, and catch me live every Monday night on Broken Optics on YouTube. The Monday Night Melee, playing Street Fighter this week, Tekken 7. If it's a fighting game, we're going to play it. In Your House, Trace, Matt 3. Now, I don't remember back then. This is before they had like taglines for them, but even back then they weren't like numbering them. They were just called In Your House. The numbers didn't come until like years later with people.
No, I think when they started to bring the DVDs out, I think, because certainly I've got the entire In Your House collection on DVD, and they're all numbered. So I think, you know, it was probably around about then when they thought, well, let's start numbering them for people.
Yeah. Do you think originally, like, this was the plan for this to be? I mean, obviously they wanted to go every month, but was it just to be In Your House? Do you think they had other ideas at the time, or just, no, we're going to have a house set every other fucking month?
I think, as we're still in 1995, Travis, for you to say, do you think they had any other ideas when we're seeing the state of the main event scene and, you know, creative as a whole? I think they had no other ideas at all. I think this was, you know, the set was cheap. It was already made. So saving expenditure there. It was a good name. I still love the name In Your House because it made it a little bit more personal. So I think this was probably the plan all along, or at least for like a year until they could come up with something. But then once that year had elapsed and, you know, they saw how well received the In Your House pay-per-views were, it was just like, let's just carry on to it. Let's flog the horse until it drops dead.
I've heard people talk about for years too, like, oh, Howard Finkel came up with the name WrestleMania, or Dusty Rhodes came up with Halloween Havoc, Great American Bash. I want to know who came up with In Your House. You're right. It's a really good idea. It fits. It makes sense. It's everything it needs to say in 3 simple words. And what a logo, you know.
And the song, everything worked for In Your House, at least in the beginning, you know.
Yeah. Well, let's get right into it. This one had not one, not two, not three, but four goddamn dark matches, Matt.
Yes. So the first dark match before the event was Fatu defeated Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and then three
Wait a
dark
minute.
matches.
Wait a minute. I thought they did this whole he was undefeated thing forever at this time.
Well, that was only on television, Travis. We should
Motherfuckers.
know what happens off of TV.
Well,
Doesn't
just
really
like
count.
Lex Luger was like WWF champ for a night. Nobody ever knew.
Exactly.
There you go.
Exactly.
I feel so betrayed now by this company that they lied to us because I thought Triple H had that undefeated streak for his first year. Continue, Matt. Sorry.
And three dark matches after the cameras had rolled. So Goldust beat Bob Holly, Ahmed Johnson beat Skip, and The Undertaker beat King Mabel in a match that I'm so glad we didn't have to sit through.
What a fucking little card that is. That should have been Mania 12. Fuck it.
Christ. Mabel at Mania 12. Fuck me.
You know what's rough is when we're going up to the Great White North for our next show, In Your House 4, that opened that pay-per-view, Fatu and Triple H, that exact same match with a different outcome. Spoiler.
I I just feel like they used their dark matches to practice, for maybe the next pay-per-view or whenever they were going to have. Because I'm sure Undertaker and Mabel was on an In Your House or a Raw somewhere.
They had their blow off match at December '95. We'll get there in a couple shows, but it was originally supposed to be on the next one. But I think the Raw, like the night after this or the week after the Raw, after this one we're talking about tonight, I don't want to confuse people, is when Mabel crushed Undertaker's face. So that match was canceled, and next month is Yokozuna and Mabel.
Oh, you can hear us almost trying not to vomit as we say that.
Seth Rollins style. It's very topical, Matt. No, I'm glad we don't have to review any of these four matches yet. We don't have to do it today, at least, because we didn't see them.
Yet.
Yet.
We'll save that goodness for a few weeks down the line.
Saskatchewan, Michigan, right? Is where this emanates from?
Saginaw, Michigan.
Saginaw. Thank you, Matt. Saginaw, Michigan. This was the era where Monday Night Raws were running in the fucking goddamn little ice rinks and like the borderline high school gyms, and just not pay-per-views like this weren't packing. Only the big shows, like SummerSlam last show was at the Igloo in Pittsburgh. It was looked great on TV. This looked like shit. That's one of my biggest complaints about the early In Your House is not even like the fault of the actual pay-per-view. It's just this time period when Monday Night Raw was in front of like literally less than 1,000 people on TV. It looked like shit. It perception's reality, to me at least, when I watch something, especially supposed to be the big time, and it just speaks to the whole business at the time, I feel like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, they didn't look great. They looked almost looked like they had no money spent on them. And it's night and day for when they moved on upwards to bigger arenas in the Attitude Era to to the sheds they used for Raw. I think I remember Jim Cornette on his podcast saying that when he was on Creative, they one of the arenas was so small for Raw that the production office was out in the car park somewhere.
There was one where I forget who told it, where it was a Raw taping. The showers, it was like a place where they had rodeos or something, or like there were outdoor showers for animals, none for humans. So after the matches, the boys would have to shower in these animal things. This was the WWF at a television tape. I think it was Cornette that told that story. But yeah.
Wow.
Monday Night Raw live from a bowling alley, pal. No, just crazy to see just, really in reality what Steve Austin in that era just changed everything and turned it all around, insane. But that's another podcast for another time. We get to do it again. One thing I'm glad that we're discovering doing these 95 shows, Matt, we are getting to talk about all these gimmicks I never thought we would, that I've been itching to talk about, any excuse to talk about. Your opening contest for In Your House 3, Matt.
Oh, dear. Savio Vega versus Waylon Mercy. Now, before we start this, I have to say, you you tweeted me. You sent me a message on Twitter saying, you wait till you see the opening match. And then I looked it up and I thought, oh, God, this can't be anything good. And I don't know your opinion on it yet, Travis, but I think I was right.
This, first of all, the Waylon Mercy gimmick, let's cut the shit. For no one that knows what it is, it's Bray Wyatt's 2013 gimmick. It's based off Robert De Niro from Cape Fear. It was an amazing gimmick. I personally feel like Danny Spivey did a tremendous goddamn job with the gimmick. The problem is this was at the literal tail end of his career. His back made him retire like a month after this. Literally. I think he took a shit power bomb, a botched power bomb from Diesel and like Superstars, and that retired him. Abysmal in ring from Danny Spivey here, and I hate to say that because it technically, compared to like the Golden Boy, even in the Skyscrapers, he was way more mobile than this. This is just pathetic. Shout out to Savio though. Savio tried to make this work so bad. Savio busted his ass in this match, basically having a match with himself. What do you think about the Waylon Mercy gimmick? How he always shook hands with the fans on the way to the ring and the referee and the opponent, but as soon as that bell rang, it would just totally change. He becomes sinister. It's probably my favorite part of the gimmick. I love it so much.
Yeah, I like how unnerving he was. You know, he was like this. I'm not going to say backward because it wasn't as backwards as Bray Wyatt. You know, would take almost the same gimmick, but it was sort of unnerving to see him smile and then to see him change on a dime. But honestly, I think had Dan Spivey been given this gimmick when he could move, then it would have made a world of difference. Because it just fell apart for him in the ring. Had this been a gimmick that he didn't have to wrestle with and just appeared in vignettes on TV each week, it would have been fine. But, you know, like you said, in ring, absolutely hideous. And I've never rated Dan Spivey as a great wrestler at all. Like in the Skyscrapers, he was bad.
But he was but I feel like for the era, he was a very competent big man. Like you could put him out there and get a decent match, but he wasn't like Elegante or something.
I mean, he wasn't as bad as Elegante. He was. I mean, obviously, you know, our opinions differ on this. Like, I don't recall a Dan Spivey match I've ever enjoyed, be it tag or singles. Golden Boy, I preferred better than Skyscraper, but you know, there wasn't really much in it for me. And obviously
if him and that gimmick and the Golden Boy would have been around the 70s, I guarantee you he would have been a way bigger deal. I feel like that was just an outdated kind of gimmick for even the 80s.
Yeah,
even the name, you know. Guys, go back if you're listening to this. Go back and you get a chance to watch this match. There's like literally 3 or 4 moments in this match, and I didn't even have to go out of my way because I watched this twice. God help me for the show. Dan Spivey's knees literally almost completely buckle like 3 or 4 times in this match. Yeah. You could it's like he's on stilts at some points. He doesn't have, it's like vertigo type shit when I watch this. Why? To a hero's fucking welcome, by the way. We got to address this. This might be the best reaction I've ever seen Savio Vega get, unless he'd get like a fluke win in the King of the Ring tournament. But this was like, our boy, it was amazing. Amazing the reception he got here. And by the way, the shocking win, because I didn't remember this match, and I was sure as shit Waylon Mercy was going to beat Savio Vega. Nope.
Yeah, great reaction. I think this was, you know, fans were believing in Savio, if you like, after King of the Ring. The fuck did he do? Did he do anything at SummerSlam? I'm trying to rack my brains.
He did not.
No, he didn't, did he?
SummerSlam.
So maybe that little break made fans miss him. Can you imagine? But no. And whose idea was it to put this on pay-per-view? Honestly, it's like
I can totally live and believe the concept too. Like, yeah, he was like an ethnic babyface, especially for the time. So with like that minority, the Puerto Ricans and stuff, yeah, my God, of course. But this was in Saginaw, Michigan. How many Puerto Ricans are in Saginaw, Michigan? It was just, I don't remember Savio being this over, I guess, when I was a kid. Because as a kid, me personally, I was never really into Savio, and I never thought anyone else was either. I don't remember seeing these reactions back in the day, but silly me.
No. Well, I was into Savio Vega as a kid, bit more than you, not totally, but No, the reactions I don't remember him getting, at least not to this extent. The King of the Ring ones, I do, but I don't remember him getting like reactions like this on In Your Houses, and maybe he got it like one or two superstar tapings, but you know,
Yeah,
they greeted him here like he was Shawn Michaels.
they did. You know, one thing I'll say about Savio Vega, he always had a beautiful fucking spin kick, and I'm glad they were smart enough to make that his finisher.
Yeah, love that spin kick. The match itself, though, it was bad for me. Like bad. This was. I think I'm right. This was like the very short reign of Bill Watts as Booker.
The whole thing that resonated in my mind watching this, and I tried not to because it was depressing, but just put the cow out to pasture with Spivey. That's my entire
Yeah.
synopsis on this match. It's a rough watch, knowing what was coming for the guy in like a month, and knowing the potential of that fucking gimmick and what, you know, could have been. But at the end of the day, I feel like Bray Wyatt took Jake the Snake Roberts because he talked in riddles way more than Spivey, and Waylon Mercy and threw it in a blender, and we got 2013 Bray Wyatt, and then off to the races we went.
Yeah. It's a shame for Dan Spivey because he could have made a lot of money off of that gimmick and that character.
It's
Just not
crazy.
in.
I feel like it would have made a decent manager too, but I can see the reason they didn't make him a manager because he's like 6'8" or 6'2". Who's going to manage at the time? He could only manage another giant, you know.
Yeah.
Say lovey. Where does that take us to next, man?
That took us to Doc Hendricks backstage, and there was some commotion with Jim Cornette and Gorilla Monsoon because we'd been told during the Savio Vega Waylon Mercy match that Owen Hart was not in the arena for his main event tag team match. And for me, like as good as this was, I loved the Jim Cornette Gorilla Monsoon tete-a-tete, but fuck me, did Owen get the rough end of the stick in '95.
Guys, get used to seeing this shot of this dressing room in this exact angle, by the way, because we're going to revisit the same fucking promo basically like three more times, just with like Gorilla Monsoon. It was fine. It was fine. Like I said, I don't think this needed as many segments, especially if you're just going to shoot it in the same. They're standing. Did they not move for the next hour and they just stood there? Like,
Yeah.
you know, it was fine. It told a story, but yeah, I'm with the. I know why they did it because obviously Owen, we'll get there later, but he interfered, so it was just a cheap heel tactic for them to cheat. It, you thought I was probably joking when I like DM'd you, like I wish they would have picked like fucking Sid or Mabel or somebody, especially just Sid, because they showed that like Cornette talking to Sid. Why would Sid turn down that opportunity? He hated Diesel and Shawn in storyline. No, I'm good. I'm good. They've beaten me on every pay-per-view. I don't want to get embarrassed again. Is there any logic I can have why Sid wouldn't have done it?
But fucking thank God he didn't, though. Can you imagine Sid in another main event in 1995?
I think for me, it's just the mark in me, but seeing the spectacle of Yokozuna and Sid as a tag team for one night would have been awesome. You know, I think that's what it is.
But then we'd have had to sit through another Sid Diesel match. And it's like, with In Your House 1, King of the Ring, In Your House 2, and then this.
Well, I
Fucking
mean, we've got
hell.
Edge and Orton at Mania next year, apparently, so strap in.
Can't believe you're comparing Edge to Randy Orton to Sid.
Where in-ring action, Matt? Up next, where are we at?
We're back with Sid versus Henry Godwinn. What a clusterfuck this was.
I forgot this is how they turned Henry Godwinn to babyface. Like I knew he started as a heel and eventually they turned him babyface, but I forgot how they did it. And like they showed like the clip on Raw of like him slopping DiBiase and yeah,
DiBiase,
getting so pissed and like destroying Godwinn and fucking his back up. Like he powerbombed him on the outside of the apron or some shit, right?
yeah, he did. And this was literally the match. Axe handle, punch, knee, repeat. That was it. Oh no, sorry. Camel clutch.
So the last time I want to correct something because I'm a fucking anal perfectionist. On our In Your House 2 review, I neglected because I didn't know at the time. I neglected to mention at the end of that match with Henry Godwinn and Bam Bam Bigelow, the finish where we were like, "What the fuck was that finish?" Apparently, Henry Godwinn like injured his ankle, and when he did that knee off the top, and I went back and I watched how he landed, and it's nasty, and I can see it. And after it, he's limping and you know all the whole time. So I think he took a month off SummerSlam, and they brought him back and just redid it as a babyface. God damn, the $1 Million Corporation was big enough at this point. There was way more heels on the roster than valid babyfaces.
Yeah. It was becoming the NWO, wasn't it, at WWF? Just like throw anyone into it.
This match was the pits. I did not enjoy
shit,
this match. This is shit.
Sid's axe handles looked awful. $1 Million Man pulling Henry Godwinn off of the cover. It was just like everything was bad. Like Sid didn't do one thing good. Everything he threw looked hokey and fake. Henry Godwinn didn't really sell anything that well.
No.
And I looked, when I was watching it, it was like, I can see Ted DiBiase getting embarrassed having to sit and watch this at ringside.
As much of an elderly lady that Danny Spivey looked in the first match, I would rather watch that match again than this match.
And do you know what? At least Danny Spivey bumped and did things here and there.
At least it was still the Waylon Mercy gimmick at the end of the day.
Exactly. This was just Sid doing fake axe handles and, sweating and spitting profusely.
If they hadn't driven the nail home by this point that these In Your House shows are kind of B-level pay-per-views with the recent cards for these, this one had to get away because after this you got like Bigelow and Bulldog and a shit match too. I didn't really enjoy. Just these are superstars of Raw matches for $20.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they are. They're a chance to see the mid to upper card wrestlers on pay-per-view because this wouldn't have got on SummerSlam. And
no.
So
yeah. The only thing I somewhat enjoyed, and by somewhat I'm really stretching it, was the slop on DiBiase at the end.
Oh, you enjoyed that? I thought it was terrible.
I said somewhat enjoyed. I didn't say I liked it a lot. It was better than anything in the match. I'll say that.
You were forced to pick one good point. That's it. Yeah.
By the way, guys, if you couldn't tell, take a wild guess because we didn't say it. Who won the match? We'll give you guys a second. You ready? Here it comes. It was Sid, of course.
Of course it was Sid.
Could you imagine though if he lost clean like the slop draw?
That would have killed him. Surely that would have killed the character after losing so often to Diesel.
You already knew too, like even at the time. Excuse me. Sid had that streak of losing on every pay-per-view. He was due. This was the one for sure. This was a layup.
Yeah.
Can we please move on from this fucking match? Oh my god. I don't have anything else to say about it. Didn't Bigelow come out for the assist with Godwinn? Like the strap?
Yeah, Bigelow came out, attacked Karma, who was out there to help Sid beat down, an already beaten down Henry Godwinn, because that makes sense. And then Godwinn rolls out and Ted DiBiase gets the slot bucket on his head. It was all very tongue-in-cheek and it was all very juvenile, and you could hear Vince McMahon loving every minute of that ending at the commentary desk.
Yeah. I guess it did make sense though why even though they beat him, they still come out and beat his ass because he embarrassed DiBiase and the corporation was fucking pissed. So I guess I get that part of the storyline.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, it was better than the match. It just wasn't very good still, and that was the best part of the match.
Does that take us back to Doc Hendricks?
Yes, with still Jim Cornette and Gorilla Monsoon arguing. And this is where Gorilla says that Yokozuna can defend the belt single-handedly or can find a different partner.
Yeah. I thought Jim Cornette sold this well, too. Like, when Monsoon said that at first, he kind of played it like, what? And then he started thinking like, oh, this is going as planned. So, it was fine. More of the same.
Yeah, more of the same. Nothing special here at all. Which is sad because it's Jim Cornette. And I have to say, like, people can think what they like about Jim Cornette. He was a terrific mouthpiece and a terrific manager. So,
He was, but
he says some dumb shit.
He did not have the chemistry. He was great. He's in my top 5 of all time, but he did not have the chemistry with Gorilla that like a Jesse or Bobby did at all for me ever. Like it was kind of there, but not really. Two
I
different
mean,
worlds, two completely different worlds, probably is
oh
what that.
yeah, yeah,
I'm sure they got
but
along, you know.
but one of the best managers of all time. Like, and can I just say, if people are going to sit, and say, oh, but he's this now and this now and this, that makes no difference to the quality of manager he used to be.
I
So
mean, we all know
everyone,
the unspeakable things Chris Benoit did, but I still think he was a fantastic wrestler. It doesn't take that away,
exactly,
you know.
exactly.
Is what's up next? One of the best things ever, or something we could probably do without?
Oh no, something we could probably do without. Because next is the British Bulldog versus Bam Bam Bigelow. Oh,
It did not make sense to me why this was so boring, considering who was in it. One of the best big men of all time, one of
yeah.
the best whatever in the Bulldog, two Hall of Famers. Um, I don't know. Hello,
Hey,
95. This was shit Bigelow. You're right. I think you said it on In Your House too, where Bigelow was just phoning it in. He wasn't the Bigelow of old. Even in 95, two
yeah.
years later, after 93, he didn't care. The click shit. It just was what it was. Not good.
I mean, I think it started off decently, this match. And then it just descended from there. Did Bigelow take an injury in this because he hit that apron pretty hard when he went over?
It looks like
My interpretation was that he'd tweaked something or he'd injured something, and therefore couldn't do the rest of the match as ably as he should have been able to. But if he didn't injure himself, then shame on both men, because this was the pits.
it's just shocking that I guess it wasn't the in ring was so atrocious that there was just nothing memorable about the match at all. And that's what I meant by considering who's in the match. You would think there's like, I guess the only memorable spot to me that probably looked the best is besides that apron spot, which was completely unintentional. The intentional spot that looked the best is when Bigelow was going like full force into the corner and Bulldog moved the last second. And I always loved how Bigelow took that face first in the turnbuckle. Like he kind of gave the turnbuckle a double axe handle sort of thing, but just knocks himself out. That was pretty cool. I always loved that spot. But yeah, I mean, this was totally to build up the British Bulldog for the next pay per view to make him look strong. And I mean, say what you want. That match wasn't great at all with Diesel. It's one of the worst main events of all time. Also, people have said, and as much as I love the British Bulldog, I don't. We talked about turning razor heel, I think, last show. I don't think Bulldog
Yeah,
was a call at this time. I think you needed to say Bulldog for Bret at least.
yeah. I mean, I can't totally disagree. I much preferred heel Bulldog to babyface Bulldog. When you saw him, he was much cooler to get behind. And had this match been 2 years previous, then it would have probably tore the house down. But you know, we can go over the whole Bigelow was done in '95 as much as we want, but we're just gonna repeat ourselves, and people will get bored. So Bam Bam
Just
was
like this
washed
match.
up by this. Yeah, yeah, and didn't it drag? Like if this had been 4.5 minutes, then maybe this would have been really, really good.
This went over
But
10.
it must have gone 12, if not 13, surely. And
Yeah.
it felt every single fucking second of it.
And you kind of, because I mean, he was a freshly turned heel. You kind of even knew who was going over at the time because no one knew Bulldog was getting a shot until like the next night on Raw. They just announced it randomly. Because God help me, yes, I went and watched the Raw on the network after this in the past month. I was just bored.
Glutton for punishment, aren't you?
So nobody knew this was like the vehicle, yeah, to the vehicle to build, Bulldog in the title scene. But woof, 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 woof. Another dud. Three in a row.
Yeah. Next, we had a special look at the WrestleMania 11 special, which, does this explain why Bigelow was on the card to push the WrestleMania 11 special?
I remember this WrestleMania 11 special as a kid. Do you? I watched it.
No, I don't think we got it over here.
It was a horribly edited hour of WrestleMania 11 highlights with two matches that were edited. It was Lawrence Taylor and Bam Bam and Shawn and Diesel, but they were so edited and it's just unwatchable. Not good. And
No,
it's
it,
just speaks to the state of the business. Like, yeah, they got aired on Fox for WrestleMania, but when did they air it? 11 p.m. Come on, man. If this was the Attitude Era, that shit would have ran at fucking 8 p.m. You know what I mean? Prime
yeah.
time. But say love you.
Well, I'm fucking glad we didn't get that. I'm also not glad that we got this next bit. Bob Backlund out, and they
Oh,
were brave. They were brave giving him a live microphone, weren't they?
they always
Especially after, especially after he'd forgot his lines in a pre-taped vignette, like a few pay-per-views before, and now they're trusting him with a live mic.
we've been on a streak with Bob. Just he's been killing it on this show with the Philly cheesesteak, putting a carrot in it, all that, running for president in the crowd. The buck stops here. This was awful. This is fucking terrible. And I didn't even realize what this was segueing to. I just thought it was Bob filling time at first. He introduced Dean Douglas. And why?
Yeah.
Because they wears fucking sports coats. Because one's a teacher and one's a politician. That's what they have in common. I don't ever remember them aligning before or after this. I don't get it.
No, I mean, did Backlund manage him for like a brief period? Because I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
by In
this
Your House 4,
match, this fucking match. I know. I don't think he ever managed him, ever. This
Wow.
was literally here, Bob, something for you to do. Because we don't trust this Shane Douglas kid because the clique doesn't like him. So we're hoping you can get this kid over. The guy that's probably cut one of the top 3 promos of the 90s throwing the NWA belt down. Fuck that. We don't need that shit here. Bob, go out there and be you. Unbelievable. That's Shane Douglas. It's fucking unbelievable. But it is time to get our thinking caps on, I guess. I spoiled the surprise, man. Your man. It's time. We both made him
Yes.
entire pro in the past month. God, we're losers. Who's on tap?
Dean Douglas, Razor Ramon. And I mean, I liked this better than you. And we talked about this on Twitter. But it still wasn't. I'm not going to say main event quality when it should have been. It still wasn't a mid card quality. I felt like, and through this was throughout the whole match, I looked at Scott Hall and I just felt that he felt that this feud was below him.
I felt that. And by the way, this is going to be 4 duds in a row from me, guys. And this one really disappoints me. I don't remember this match at all, like the quality of it. So going back and watching this, knowing what we know now, because I've watched, I think it was a literal 3-hour Shane Douglas shoot interview. I watched it. I took breaks, obviously, but I watched a lot of shit on this time period with these guys. He fucking hated Scott Hall. When Scott Hall showed up in ECW a couple years later, like the Triple Threat and all these guys, like, get the fuck out of here. Like, they're going to beat his ass just because how he acted and treated like Shane and Bam Bam right here, literally, in like this, probably right before this match. When I watch this match, all that translates to me from Scott Hall is this kid doesn't have it. He wasn't selling. He was barely giving Dean anything. And that's what I got from it. I mean, I feel like poor Shane, he was like, come on, fucking sell, motherfucker. You're supposed to get me over tonight. But it just wasn't happening.
I've,
These two didn't have
I've,
chemistry at all.
no, they didn't. They did hate each other. I've seen this Scott Hall shoot interview where they talk about Shane Douglas and Dean Douglas, etc., and Shawn Michaels as well, and they both say that he came in with this massive reputation from ECW
Like
as
he
being,
sucked.
one of the best, yeah, and they they both say that he just wasn't as good as he was billed to be at all, which is bullshit because Shane Douglas is a good wrestler. Well, was a good wrestler.
And they,
you
they
know?
always said that based on his in ring too, by the way. They're not I don't think they ever said his promos were shit because how could you? But I think in
Yeah.
ring was always their problem with him. With like this guy's fucking stiff, he's got 2 left feet, shit like that. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah. I mean, this match probably didn't do him any favors, even though it was Scott Hall that refused to sell and stuff. Because it's difficult because they did it for me like the basics of a good wrestling match. The technique was there, but Douglas was a victim, I think, of Hall's non-selling because Hall non-selling and looking just like he'd rather be at home or in a bar somewhere made Douglas appear boring.
It did. It did. If it just made Dean Douglas seem like an Iron Mike Sharp or a Reno Riggins. No pizzazz. He never turned the corner and never hit the next gear. Neither one of these guys did. Oh my God. This proves again why this just stands out as a B level pay-per-view. Another match on this card where it's tailor made to focus on another storyline, an upcoming feud, especially with the finish.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3 kid down. He counts the 3 counts. Razor thinks he's won, and then him and the kid get into a little shoving match, and Scott Hall is rolled up from behind by Dean Douglas. And I think it's like, the end protected Razor because he obviously didn't want to go down clean, and he was more focused on the Shawn Michaels feud to come.
I was always looking back. This is like one of the most disappointing feuds I think the WWF, WWE, whatever, has ever done. The potential they could have did with this, where like it started out, the kid was a jobber and nobody to beat Razor. They could have turned him heel in such a better manner because what was the payoff months later? A fucking diaper match. And yes, we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. But it was just it was that era. It was the hokiness, the cheesiness, and this feud completely suffered for that. Now, I would have liked, imagine either one of these guys go to WCW. Now, granted, if that happens, we might have never got the NWO like we did. But let's pretend all is still the same. Austin blew up and WCW is kicking WWF stuff. Imagine if they would have got the payoff of this feud in like the Attitude Era, where they could get into that like some serious blood feud shit. And I think you make the kid this vicious, nasty little squirmy prick heel.
I'd have preferred that, but no, they totally shit the bed with this. And kid would go into the $1 million corporation.
I was about to say, take a wild guess what they did with him creatively as a heel. Take a wild guess in '95 where this heel ended up.
Oh dear! With every other fucking heel, they had nothing else for. Right by Ted DiBiase's side, and in a tag team with Sid, could they not have killed his heat any faster?
I feel like, dare I say, by Survivor Series '95, they pretty much had. They waited too long to pull the trigger on them having their blow-off match. February '96? We're in goddamn September right now. It's the attention spans weren't as long as they were in the 80s and 70s anymore. And this was when the company was starting to adapt that. Vince's inner circle, the Pattersons, the Pritchards, all the guys in his ear, like, we're outdated and we got to catch up with these guys. And a little guy named Vinny Rue stumbled along,
Yeah. I think, I can't remember when they pulled the trigger on the 1, 2, 3 kid heel turn. I'm thinking October-ish time, maybe September, because this was brewing. But, Razor versus 1, 2, 3 kid in a solid 25-minute wrestling match at Survivor Series was probably all this needed if the best you had was a diaper match. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. I'm almost certain, by the way, that the kid actually turns heel the Raw after the next In Your House we're reviewing, the Great White North, because he tags with Razor as a babyface on that pay-per-view against Smoking Guns. So, babyface versus babyface match.
There we go. So it's October. 1 month before Survivor Series, and you couldn't book a serious, 25, 30-minute wrestling match between two very good professional wrestlers without, giving it a stupid stipulation.
Well, it was all this to build up the 1, 2, 3 kids moment of the sun in Survivor Series '95, being the sole survivor against the team of Barry Horowitz, Hakushi, Marty Jannetty. So there you go. That was the payoff.
Oh, the All Stars of WWFA. That was his payoff.
What did you think of the kids' interference and just the finish, at least, of the match?
I think it was very convenient for Scott Hall that he didn't have to lose clean to a man he clearly despised. I felt by this point they'd dragged it out to the point where it was just like, just turn him or I'm going to turn off. And I remember that as a kid as well. I remember watching this thinking, this is quite boring now. So why am I still watching? Why am I invested?
I kind of see it too, though, from Hall's point of view. Why would he want to lose clean if he's got this feud with the kid brewing? And we don't know he's going to WCW yet. Maybe he still wants to hold the WF title, especially if he doesn't like Douglas. I mean, it's business. I can see it. It's justified in a way.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I can see it, and all right, he didn't want to lose clean, but at the same time, just have the kid turn on him here.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
have the kid come off the top rope, like he did at the Rumble when he cost him the match against Goldust.
Yeah.
You know, do it like that, and then Razor he's gotten out. He doesn't have to lose clean to Douglas. Kids heal, and then you can start building that. You know, you can have him cost Razor more matches and be a squirmy little shit and keep, getting out of dodge when Razor goes to beat his ass. And then until it finally all boils down to one-on-one. He can't get out of it. He's got to face it. And there's Razor's retribution.
Love it. I'd book it the same way, probably, honestly. I got to give it, though, man. Just 4 in a row this week. Are we going to set a record for every match sucking all the dicks? Has that ever happened on Union Smack? Even King of the Ring 95, I feel like the Roadie and fucking Bob Holly was a good match. At least.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully we're not, because the next match is a stonker, I'm going to say. But first we had a...
I didn't want to spoil it for people, because I know what's up next.
There you go. We had an advert in Your House, Great White North, which hyped Undertaker versus Mabel and the Goldust debut. Oh, dear. That's all to come next week, folks.
All the stock. By the way, next month, get used to seeing stock footage of snowy mountaintops. Fucking WWF and their creativity. Continue, man.
Then we were taken back to Doc Hendricks trying to sell some HBK merchandise. He'd taken over
my God,
Barry
yes.
Kudetsky. Yes.
Do it.
And then in came Shawn and Diesel, and Shawn was so much happier with Michael Hayes than he had been with Todd Pettengill.
Hey, kids, you want to look fucking cool? Well, let's throw out Michael Hayes in a mustache and a shitty suit with his greasy hair. Man, the kids are going to eat that shit up. Man, Mom, Dad, you know what? This looks so awesome on Michael Hayes. I'm not even going to ask permission. I'm just going to buy them. What the fuck were they thinking? You couldn't trot Sonny out? You couldn't anybody else. Where's Barry Dudetsky? Is he gone now? Is that it? Is that the run?
Was he not in the audience at some point? I mean, I don't think I noted it down, but I'm sure he was in the audience somewhere doing some...
I think the mayor of merchandise just got kicked out of City Hall, man.
The mayor of merchandise, that's amazing.
That's what they call him. I didn't come up with that. That's literally, I think, what Vince calls him. The mayor of merchandise, Barry Dudetsky. Or Todd, one of them. Shit, Shawn and Diesel being cocky fucking pricks, knowing that they got Vince in the palm of their hand. They can cut any style promo they want. This is just another... By the way, let's do it. The team name. 2 dudes with attitudes.
Terrible, isn't it?
Oh my God. That aged like stale piss. That is so bad. And Diesel even had the custom 2 dudes with attitudes singlet on this. Tremendous.
And Michaels had it on the back of his tights as well.
Yep. Reynolds'
Awful.
Ass.
Awful, but it will find its way into Fire Pro, sadly.
What did you think of this? Hey, we just smoked a bunch of weed before this promo, man.
I didn't even write the promo down because I couldn't really understand what they were saying. So,
yep.
It was a Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash standard 95 promo. That's basically the best way I could describe it.
I think Nash made like a Jackie Gleason reference and Shawn popped, and that was the only highlight or something. Something weird Diesel did. Because this is when Diesel was trying to be fucking... I'm not the Diesel in 94 that was a heel and everybody wanted to cheer because he was awesome. This was, I'm funny Diesel now. Because I'm being booked terribly. Hey, Tater Tots, Roman Reigns, same fucking thing. They just, not good. Not good. But let's get good. Let's get good, Matt. What's up next?
Yes. Bret Hart versus Jean-Pierre Lafitte.
This is on, if I'm correct, the Bret Hart Dungeon Collection DVD, right?
I believe it is, yes. And even though the story going into this was horse piss, Pierre just stealing Bret Hart's jacket, that's enough for him to win a match.
Well, he was upset because Helen made that jacket. That's why. You didn't know Helen was a seamstress for professional wrestlers and made all their gear?
Makes it worse somehow, doesn't it? It just makes it worse somehow that this feud was built over a jacket that his mother gave him, and he just couldn't let it go.
By the way, Matt, you know what time it is? It's time to debut a new gimmick on Union Smack. Jean-Pierre Lafitte is coming down the aisle. The original Paul Burchill, Paul Burchill's dad. This is straight up fucking pirate gimmick. No fucks given.
Yeah.
Hey, it's 95. We need a pirate. Jean-Pierre Lafitte.
And wasn't this around the time when the story of the clique going to Vince and saying, "Look, let's starve Carlo Lay"?
Yeah, yeah, yep. They hated him.
Well, they nearly did a good job giving him this gimmick. It's lucky he could wrestle, isn't it? Otherwise, he'd have been fucked completely.
Now, the storyline, like we both agree on, is just, oh my god, what were they thinking? The gimmick, you could have tweaked this gimmick up, especially if he would have stuck around. I'm going to say it again. I don't mean to keep saying the Attitude Era this week, but you could have made this not so, hey, I'm a pirate, as opposed to like, I think I'm a pirate, but I'm really an actual like insane mental patient and I'm vicious type thing.
Yeah.
Dare I say, gimmicks aside, this is one of Bret Hart's most overlooked and underrated matches ever. I love this match. I
Oh yeah.
always have. I always feel like this. No one ever talks about this match.
And it's one of them hidden gems from our childhood that stays with you, like the Hakushi match from In Your House 1. You know, it's little ones like this that I think showed how good a wrestler Bret Hart actually was. If that makes sense, so we knew how great technically he was. On the big stages against big opponents like Michaels and Kevin Nash. He took Kevin Nash to great matches in WWF. You know, not so much against Jerry Lawler, but against Owen, against Bulldog. He carried SummerSlam '92 match. But it's these little matches that show just how good Bret Hart were, because no one really cared about Hakushi. No one really cared about Pierre, in '95, especially the Pirate. But Bret Hart made you care about them for the 12, 15 minutes he was in the ring with them. And he elevated them also when he could have just gone, do you know what? B level pay per view. Let's be honest, B level opponent. I can just phone this in. But no, he went on to have some of the best and most underrated matches with men that weren't important in the company.
Screw jobs aside, I don't ever remember Bret phoning it in until we got to WCW, honestly. I feel like Bret, house show, B show, or not, always went out there and tried to be the show, you know.
I mean, SummerSlam '95 was the exception.
I wouldn't call that phoning it in as much as, God, this guy's fucking green that I'm working with and kind of clumsy. This new guy, I don't know. I mean, it's rough. That's a tough call. That match is a tough call to say. But if there was one match that he borderline phoned in, it would probably be that one. I agree. There you go.
Yeah.
I think we got to shout out Jean-Pierre Lafitte and Hakushi for these two matches too, because I mean we saw him in the
Yeah.
Quebecers before, but that was a tag team to where he was the entire focal point. Now, those two guys brought this really great hybrid style to the company that hadn't really been seen before like that in the WWF. Like, and I say that for Pierre Lafitte because I mean you look at him and you don't, but he's out there. He's very aerial big man PCO. I mean, not now because he's really old, but back then, man, he was fast and he was even in this match. You saw like the Tope Suicida, I think, to the outside, misses. He flat backed on the goddamn floor mat, looked
Yeah.
vicious. Oh my goodness. That hurt me watching.
Wonderful, Bob.
Yeah. No, but both him and Hakushi. I mean, we talked about Hakushi. We need a break on Hakushi, but it's Jean-Pierre Lapitte's time to shine. My God, another guy just so what could have been, if the click weren't dicks.
Yeah, exactly. If they didn't have vendettas against people for no apparent reason, then solid intercontinental champion Jean-Pierre Lafitte. But wasn't to be. They wasted him, and I can't remember off the top of my head his entire run in the pirate gimmick, but I'm going to
Well,
go out on a limb and say this is probably the best it got for him.
No, I'm not familiar with a lot of his stuff in like Quebec, and because obviously now he's goddamn fucking Quebec legend,
Yeah.
PCO in 2020. But back then, I'm not really. I didn't follow it a lot. Um, I just kind of feel like PCO, yeah, and I kind of contradicted myself. Really, technically, he was in the Attitude Era for like a minute. He came back, the Quebecers with Jacques,
Yes.
and they were tremendously out of shape. And then they went to WCW for a little bit. But the best part is about that when they came back, he still rocked the exact same Jean-Pierre Lafitte patch for no reason. He wasn't
Yeah.
just Peter again.
Didn't he have that in WCW as well?
He
I'm
did.
pretty sure he did. Yeah.
Yep.
Credit for carrying the gimmick.
You think he secretly really
Yeah.
fucked? He was a mark for it? Like he loved being this pirate gimmick? You think he was just really sad that the Click fucked up his run? He's like, I'm gonna make this work no matter what.
Maybe. Didn't he have a bad eye or something?
I'm sure the PCO fans listening to this are screaming at their computers right now if he does. I don't know. So
I'm sure he had a glass eye, or has a glass eye now. That
you sure wasn't a ping
stemmed
pong
from
ball?
them days. Can you imagine? He just takes off the patch and there's this fucking bulging ping pong ball underneath.
You think, like, I'm sure sometimes, like, in the matches, let's pretend he did have a bad eye or there's like a hole there. He doesn't because he has two eyes now. Let's just pretend there was. And, in a match, things happen. It's not ballet. So, like it slips up, right? Let's pretend a young Seth Rollins in the crowd watching. You think he throws up on sight when that happens and as a kid?
Well, with Vince sitting next to him going, he's gonna puke.
You know what? Jean-Pierre Lafitte, PCO, you cannot defeat him in an eye versus eye match. Eye for an eye match. You just can't. It's like pinning a hunchback, their shoulders to the mat. It's impossible.
Just put the patch over the other eye.
I'm really disrespecting this great match, just being an asshole. So let's get back to this match. What stood out to you in this match besides like that Tope Suicida spot?
Oh, almost the technicality here. I think Pierre matched, and I'm going to call him Pierre because I'm not going to say his full fucking name every time I mention him. I think he matched Bret, technically, move for move, hold for hold, as the old saying goes. I like the psychology of it. Bret looked like he was really struggling against this mid card guy who WWF didn't really give a thought to, and that didn't make Bret look weak either. Because he was such a good seller and such a good wrestler. Honestly, if nobody's seen this match, you must go back and watch it because it's very, very good.
You really should, guys. You really should. You'd be pleasantly surprised. And this is flat out. I'm going to say it right now before we're even done tonight. This is the best part of this entire show. Hands down.
Oh, without a doubt.
Without a doubt. This was also, there were two clips in this match WWF would use a lot in vignettes for Bret after this. That dive, that running tope dive to the outside that Bret did on the Jean-Pierre Lafitte, where like he flipped over, which was awesome. And just, I feel like every time Bret put Pierre Lafitte in the sharpshooter for some reason, he wrenched back a lot and just the facial he made, they used that shot with Pierre Lafitte for like 2 years after this. And it was always funny in like 97 seeing like Jean-Pierre Lafitte's legs. Like, hey, I remember him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great
and
stuff.
Bret wins with the sharpshooter.
Yep, Bret wins with the sharpshooter, gets his jacket back, celebrates with said jacket after the match. The fans, you would have thought he just won like every world title in the world at the time. They were really happy for Bret.
Yeah. Do you think they were more happy for Bret or more happy they'd seen a good fucking match on this card?
Probably the latter on that. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh dear. You know where we're going next, don't you?
I'm trying to prevent it as much as possible. I'm trying to milk every drop out of this good match before we have to move on. Just do it. Pull the Band-Aid off.
Well, we're going back to Ken Cornette's locker room, where Doc Hendricks is taking off the Shawn Michaels paraphernalia, and he's with Jim Cornette and Gorilla Monsoon, who seem to have spent all evening in Jim Cornette's locker room. And Jim Cornette, after interviewing, talking to Sid and Mabel, chooses the British Bulldog to be Yokozuna's tag team partner.
Wah, wah, wah. It's disappointing. I love the Bulldog, but I mean, he already worked on the show. And like realistically, what bad manager Cornette is in kayfabe. This guy just had a match. Why aren't you picking a fresh guy, you fucking idiot? Like, that's immediately what came to my mind. Like, why would he pick Bulldog? He's tired, you know?
Yeah. And let's be honest, Yoko, I say his name. Yokozuna was no great shakes in '95 either. So it's not like it's I've picked I've picked a tired wrestler, but it doesn't matter because Yoko can do all the work.
Sadly, as much as I love Yoko at this point, he was just like we've said, he's just a big useless shadow out there, big lump.
Yeah. A big lump. Yep.
Just health spivey stuff, man. That Yoko could have probably prevented this. I'm not, I know he's passed away, but I mean, he had his eating addictions. It's totally what led to it. So.
Yep. And we've heard the stories from Jim Cornette where he was sent to health farms and he'd pay people to sneak in burgers for him, and sometimes people can't be helped.
So one thing I want to point out is how apeshit Jerry Lawler was going that they picked the Bulldog. As soon as they showed the shot of the Bulldog standing there, before they even said anything, you could hear Lawler on commentary go, "Whoa!" And then just right after, like, blah, 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 just nuts. Just biggest Bulldog mark in the world, Jerry Lawler. Who knew?
Certainly not us. Oh, God.
Almost done, though. We are almost done.
We are almost done. But Alundra Blaze, Travis.
This.
What was, I think, former WWF Women's Champion, carried a almost non-existent division for the best part of 2.5 years. And
she was the division. That was it.
Her and Bull Nakano when Bull Nakano was there.
Bull was there, what, 6 months compared to 2 years? I mean...
Yeah, and those 6 months, she was still one of the biggest parts of the division.
That's true. I love Bull Nakano, don't get me wrong. But I can't imagine why fucking Medusa threw this belt in the trash on Nitro. Can't imagine why she would be salty about her booking in this company at all after seeing this. This is what we just said Sunny should have been doing earlier, but this was your fucking former women's champion. And God bless her. I think Medusa Michelli's attractive, but in this era with this haircut, it was a bad look. It's not who I want out there modeling. Sorry.
Just modeling a very unattractive In Your House t-shirt. Another one. Who the fuck is designing these shirts? Oh. The first one was horrible. The second one was trash. The third one was surely a running joke by now in the company. Like, let's see how bad we can get these In Your House t-shirts, and then let's see how many people we can get to buy them.
She would have been about 17, 18, or 19 at the time. Maybe it was the first job Vince ever let Stephanie do for the company. Finally, she's a big girl now. She can contribute. She can design the shirts.
Yeah.
They look right up her alley. They look cheesy, uninspired, and fucking lame. So, I mean...
Terrible. But now, I feel like we have to have one. Like we have to have an original In Your House shirt, as shitty as they were.
I just want that sweet blue King of the Ring t-shirt, 95. That's all I want.
Do you know what? That blue is quite nice. But yeah, we're getting off of track now, Travis, because we're almost home and dry.
We're right there. We're just avoiding it again.
Another 1995 Diesel main event.
Not just a main event, a triple header match. First ever in history. At the time, I thought this was fucking awesome as a kid. I was excited for this match. I was really thoroughly, like, this is one of those first matches when I think they did their first triple threat around early 96 when Piper came in as president after this, a little bit after this. This is one of the first times where, like, a match result got you thinking with the title change. Like, wow, so much shit could happen. Owen could be the champ. Yoko could be IC. Like, as a kid, I was such a mark for this concept. Then the match happened.
Yes, and just going back to what you were saying, like all the different outcomes, they mentioned some right at the beginning of In Your House when there was Vince, Jim Ross, and Jerry Lawler stood at ringside.
Yeah.
And they both predicted Owen Hart and Yokozuna to be Intercontinental Champion, but didn't give them a fucking open hell's chance of being WWF Champion.
I know. It was hilarious. Hilarious. Fuck you, Sean. That's what they thought of you. No, but by the way, this was that era too when an announcer would say something like that, you kind of knew immediately that it was obvious it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
If they would come out and say it, that was just kind of their formula back then. This might be the most predictable the company ever was in the early to mid '90s, late '80s, that time.
Oh. Well,
But
then what did you think of this match?
why couldn't Yokozuna be missing and it was Owen and the Bulldog? Is what I want to know. Why would you take out possibly the best top 3 worker in the company for Yokozuna?
Yeah. And Owen Hart, the treatment of Owen Hart in '95 was deplorable. He got less than 5 minutes at In Your House 1. He wasn't even on the King of the Ring card, was he?
He was not. He was on In Your House 2 in a tag team title match, which kind of shit the bed. Wasn't great. Wasn't terrible. SummerSlam, there was no Owen.
No, missed out on SummerSlam, and then just taken out of a match he was perfectly capable of wrestling, just so they could swap the tag titles, and then I think they swapped them back, didn't they? They stripped Shawn and Diesel the titles.
The outcome of this match, obviously, the 2 dudes with attitudes won the match. They won the belts. By the way, shocker, the Clique have all the belts now in '95. All of them, except the women's, but all of them. The very next night on Raw, their whole out for this was the debut. You ready for it, Matt? Clarence Mason in a boardroom backstage with Jim Cornette, it's his attorney, yelling at Gorilla Monsoon. Of course, well, we got to explain the finish though, because it makes no sense if I just start saying.
I mean, the finish made Diesel and Shawn Michaels look fucking stupid. It had already been explained before the match by Gorilla Monsoon that whoever Jim Cornette and Yokozuna picked as a partner would have complete rights to everything Owen Hart would have had. That means if they'd have pinned Diesel, they'd have been WWF champion. If they'd pinned Shawn, they'd have been Intercontinental champion. That took all rights away from Owen Hart, who was no longer an official member of the match. And yet, the end of this match, Owen comes running down, gets jackknifed. Was it jackknifed? I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it made the referee look even stupider than Shawn and Diesel too, by the way.
Yeah, Diesel jackknife, and then Diesel pins Owen, knowing that he's not a fucking member of the match, and then the ref counts, knowing Owen's not a member of the match, and it's just like, you fucking dunces.
And you kind of already know when that shit happens. Like the one that it happened like that, and I'm surprised they just went with it and kept the belt on him, is when ECW One Night Stand 2. Edge took out like the ref or something, and Paul Heyman came down and counted Rob Van Dam over John Cena. And immediately when that happened, I was like, well, they're just going to give the belt back to Cena the next night. No, they fucking gave it to Van Dam for like 2 months because of that. So
terrible end.
I could not agree with you anymore. That made Shawn and Diesel look like fucking idiots.
Yeah.
You could even kind of feel the crowd too, being like, "No, don't pin him, you dumbass! Like, what are you doing?" So when they got the pin, it was kind of like, "Yay!" Like, what did they do? We'll pretend like it's gonna fly,
Yeah. And Joe, I didn't hate this match as much as you did. I enjoyed it for what it was, but the end was just terrible. One of the worst endings to a match that we've reviewed so far, I think, and we've reviewed Diesel and Sid too many times.
I will say that Diesel and Sid in September '95 got treated like Jesus Christ and Moses for their entrance. Collectively, yes. They got great responses. Yeah. So I guess that worked. I mean, this match for me was Shawn and Bulldog doing the work, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, Yoko. What I didn't time it, but maybe 2 minutes in, Yoko blew up. That was him done.
Yep, it was like him trying to catch Shawn, right, or something.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah,
there's also a time period too, and I know you were talking about earlier how we love Jim Cornette, but obviously, I feel, especially in the next one where he's managing Bulldog, and he would manage Vader in early '96. I feel like he was finally starting to feel outdated though, and kind of like a relic from the '80s a little bit. And it was kind of time to move on from Jim Cornette's, which they would,
Yeah, they would. And obviously it'd get a lot better when it was Owen and Bulldog chasing the titles, even though that meant Yokozuna faded into obscurity. But I look at it, and I'm pretty sure I said this on our last review of SummerSlam 95, Travis, but I look at Yokozuna and I think, how did he last another year with this company?
No clue. They didn't want to give up on, because I mean they loved him. He was such a nice guy apparently. He got along with pretty much everyone. They didn't want to. They wanted to, they would. Well, it's not like he was on the road either. There were stints here and between now and his release in spring of '96 where he was off the road in like rehab centers for weight loss and stuff. He wasn't. They tried their ass off with him. They did.
Surely, if like he loved being with the company so much, surely letting him go and saying, "Look, we'll book you, even though you're not our employee anymore. We will book you into these rehab centers, but if you want to come back, then you have to lose weight. Like you're not a part of our roster anymore, but
Yep.
prove to us that you could do it. Not keep him on the payroll.
This cozy fucking padded. Well, you have a job. You're good. You're
exactly.
Good. You got to hit rock bottom sometimes in life before you rise above. I feel like truly.
Yes,
I mean
yes, you do. And I think that might have worked for Yokozuna because he had no other work. I don't think WCW would have employed him at that point, weighing that much. I mean, maybe Hogan would have.
A year earlier, I think they would have thrown him in the Dungeon of Doom. But in this time with the NWO, literally right on the horizon when he got released and starting, he didn't really fit in anywhere.
No, he didn't. I mean, I'm not putting it past Hogan to say to Bischoff, hire him for one event, let me beat him, and then you can get rid of him. But there was no long-term plan for Yokozuna if WWF had fired him in '95. So I think letting him go, forcing him to lose weight to prove he wanted the job, and also to save his life, would have worked.
Yep, I agree. I do kind of regret that we never got the visual of like if Yokozuna was in the NWO and he had the NWO shirt on was like a little bib. Like when Viscera would like wear a Raw shirt for Raw vs SmackDown, but he just cut it into like a little food bib,
Yeah. Do you think Yokozuna would have worked in the NWO?
Not at all. I just want to see that visual. Like aesthetically, it makes personality aesthetically makes no fucking sense for Yokozuna to be in the NWO. Why? Because he was in the WWF? I mean, that's it, right?
Yeah. But then, let's be honest, Travis, it made very little sense for 70% of who was in the NWO to be there. So
I might disagree with you. Maybe we'll get to an NWO special someday. I think more than a lot of people think. I think a lot of guys had their place in there. More than people like. Even your VK Wall Streets, man. I'm telling you. I have an out for all of it. VK was tag team partners with DiBiase, the main benefactor of the NWO. Why wouldn't he be in the NWO? Boom, there it is. And that's just a taste.
I'm worried that you've been sitting there coming up with excuses and reasons for every member of the NWO ever.
At least I'm not defending AEW for 2 hours, like Dave Meltzer.
That is true. You get a pass for that.
I feel like I have valid fucking responses to what I'm saying. I'm like, hey, I like Kenny Omega's my friend. Here's why he gets a pass. AKA every fucking newsletter in the past 2 years from Dave Meltzer. Either way, we have reached the mountaintop. You like this match way more than I did. I didn't hate it. I just for this kind of first time ever thing, it should have been so much more. Dare I say, on a bigger stage.
Yes.
This would have been perfect for Survivor Series.
I mean,
it's team.
Like you said, if it had been Bulldog and Owen versus Shawn and Diesel, that would have been a main event caliber match. But the fact that Bulldog had already wrestled, Yokozuna was blown up after 2 minutes. Shawn and Diesel were just, I mean, Shawn put in a good shift. Kevin, basically walked through the match. It could have been so much better, but it is what it is.
I agree with you too. I feel like if Owen was in this match with Bulldog, then we wouldn't have got. Then Diesel would have been able to everybody on the heel team would have been able to make Diesel look good instead of just one guy on the heel team being able to make Diesel look good. You know what I mean? Because when him and Yoko were in the ring, fucking forget about it. Holy shit. You know? Oh my God.
Yeah, bad times.
Godzilla versus King Kong looked like Hoot versus Ray in WCW 96 compared to that. Jesus. What do you grade from Saginaw, Michigan? The two dudes with attitudes have all the gold. King Midas's In Your House 3 is in the books. We went to school. We went down south to the swamps. Bob Backlund showed up, Matt. We've seen so much shit. But at least we got the goodness of Bret and Jean-Pierre on this. Not a terrible main event. Noteworthy historical outcome, I guess, with the title change. What do you grade it, though? Dean Tennant In Your House 3.
I'm going to give it a C minus just because it had Bret and Pierre. Had it not, it would probably get a D minus.
I can't feasibly give any show with literally one good match on it, in my opinion, anything above a D. So I'm gonna give it a D plus. And this is just it started out interesting because hindsight's 2020 and the Waylon Mercy. It's like kind of like a cult-like popular gimmick at this point. So I was very intrigued at that at first, but then the bell rang, and then the bell rang in the second match, and then the bell rang in the third match, and then it just kept fucking ringing. And yeah, what else is there to say? Doc Hendricks with Shawn Michaels merchandise, the terrible misplacement of Bob Backlund, Scott Hall giving Shane Douglas nothing, a lot of shit. And God bless Bret Hart is really my synopsis on this show. God bless Bret Hart is my review of this show. That's it. That's all I got.
The standout star of two In Your Houses now. Two bad In Your Houses. He's been the one exception to the rule.
Well, that's why I'm cherishing him on this episode, because in our next episode, In Your House for the Great White North, unfortunately, Bret doesn't have a match. He's on color commentary for the main event, because it's Survivor 95. Bret gets to face the winner of Bulldog and the Diesel. But that's next week on Union Smack. Until then, Matt, one more time, where can we catch you?
You can catch me on Twitter at The Perfect Tenant. Log on to union.bigcartel.com where you can pick up a shirt